What's going on, guys? This is Matthew Davis with Kingsman Homes. I'm here on one of our job sites where we just finished up the exterior siding and brick. And what I'm here to talk to you about today is that exterior envelope, the outer shell of the home. It protects it from the weather and creates the basis of a healthy and stable environment for your family on the inside. What's literally the roof over your head and the walls that separate you from the harsh outside world. And what most people would think is what I'm talking about is this siding and this brick, but really what I'm talking about here is what's going on behind the wall. What we like to use for the basis of this system is exactly what it is. It's multiple components working together to create a system. And the basis of this system for this house is the zip system. I really like that zip system because of its simplicity of install, availability of materials, and the overall performance of the material as well. So what is the zip sheathing? Zip sheathing is a factory fluid applied WRB, which stands for weather resistant barrier. That's the material that keeps the outside weather from penetrating to the inside of your home. The basis of the zip system is that in the field of the sheets, it has a factory applied resin that creates that green look that you see, and that is the weather resistant barrier applied to the OSB. And then combined with that, in the seams where those sheets meet together, you have the tape. And that tape is a pressure sensitive acrylic tape. And that's why you see on these tapes that it says roll the tape in big letters in English and in Spanish, because it's highly crucial to make sure that you're detailing that tape in the proper manner and rolling it, because otherwise that pressure sensitive acrylic doesn't get activated and it doesn't bond. And then once it's bonded to that material, because the zip system has like slight ridges to it, it really gets in those grooves and bonds to it, creates a nice air and watertight seal. And then when you combine that zip system, sheathing, and tape with the fluid applied to make those real critical connections, where the frame meets the foundation, around penetrations, you create exactly that, a complete system. And the idea is to have continuity around the entire house, protecting all the raw edges of the OSB from any elements, any possible penetrations for air, water, and then also whenever you seal out those things, you're also consequently keeping out the bugs. The idea is little to no holes if possible across the entirety of the house. So here's this detail here on the foundation. It's a really important, really critical area. When you think about in terms of exposure, what on the entire house is the most exposed? This detail right here at the bottom where the framing meets the foundation. In this instance, we have a brick ledge, so it's a little bit different, but regardless, what we're doing is we utilize the zip liquid flashing to make the connection from the zip sheathing down to the concrete. So on the underside, you can kind of see here, that raw exposed edge of the OSB is totally protected. In addition, it's also air and water sealed. So any wind-driven rain that's going to stack up against here, we're protected from that. Or then any bugs or critters that try to crawl up into your house, it's going to be hitting this rubberized coating of the zip system. And how it integrates beautifully into the zip sheet itself is something that I really like about it. Now we do a couple supplemental factors for insect prevention due to the high pest pressures from living in the country. One of those things is treat all the bottom 3 feet of the studs with a borite treatment. On this house we did a clear, so there's no dye added to it. And then a real cool kicker item to it is the text system. I believe I just mispronounced that, but the gist of it is behind this brick, roughly knee high, all the way around the house, are a wire looking material that's actually porous, that whenever the pest control company comes by, they can charge this port and will emit the pest control inside the cavity behind the brick. So any bugs that may try to get in through your weep holes and whatnot, that's taken care of with that. In addition to making sure that you're detailing everything to keep water out, it's really important to be able to let water out. Because things like brick, hardy fiber cement board, these are actually porous materials. Concrete is a porous material. Even when it's painted and you caulk everything nicely, we still have small penetrations and other holes that water can and will get in. So just as it's important to make sure you keep water out from getting past that envelope line of that initial structure, it's just as important to be able to let water out. So what we did here to let water out is behind all of our siding, we have strips of what's called the Keen Easy Fur. That Keen Easy Fur is 0.4 inches thick. And the unique thing about water and gravity is that it needs 3/8 of an inch space in order for it to bead and then run out and fall down on its own with gravity. So that Keen Easy Fur, being 0.4 inches thick, is slightly thicker than 3/8 of an inch thick. So if any water gets behind this siding, it can run and drain and then dry out on its own. That old adage of, our houses need to breathe is partially correct. What they really meant by that is that our houses need the ability to dry out. So something that can dry extends the life of it exponentially. Wet wood that stays wet dies in dry. So what we did was we created an air gap and a rain screen is what it's called behind this siding to allow air to come up down through the brick weeps, up the top of the siding, and then out. So that way we have a continuous continuity of airflow and water can just drain out whatever water does and will get behind this siding. Brick's a beautiful thing because with a 5.5-inch brick ledge, you have a natural air gap built in behind it. So there's roughly an 1.5 inches or so of air gap behind brick before it gets to your OSB. So that is a nice, more than substantial size space for that water to run out of. Now with siding, it's traditionally just nailed directly to your OSB, and that is where a lot of issues are caused with siding. You need to give it a space off the wall in order to allow water to weep and also dry out as it gets back there. And that'll really prolong the life of the structure and creates a really durable, long-lasting building. These details are forever, and they're the foundation for your family's health and protection of your largest investment. Now, I'm not just talking about monetarily in terms of what it costs to buy a house. I'm talking about your children, your family, your loved ones. That's your largest investment, and that's why we do these things. We can change flooring and countertops over and over every year if you wanted to, but it's the details that are behind the wall that are difficult that have the largest impact on the health and well-being and comfortability of your family. And these details are almost impossible to correct and fix later on without being extremely invasive. And whenever you do something that's extremely invasive, what it does is it means that it costs you a lot more money to do later down the road to rectify, and it's also a huge inconvenience to your life because we're essentially having to create holes in your home and expose your family to the outside elements, which is not ideal in any situation. So that's why it's really critical to just go ahead and get these things done correctly the first time, so that way you're not having to worry about them in the long lifetime of the home. These details are what expands and extends that lifespan of the home and the structure.